Let's do first impressions of this Yema Superman Heritage in 39 millimeters. I have the blue dial on the full H-Link stainless steel bracelet. Full retail price is $1,199. And I've got to say, my first impressions of this are very favorable. And I know that I'm pretty positive with most of the watches that I present here on the channel, but that's because I do my homework beforehand. I vet the watches. I don't want to spend time featuring a watch that just doesn't have the details, doesn't have the design, doesn't have the value. You know, who wants to do that? So Yema, they reached out to me a few days ago, and they asked if I wanted to feature any of their watches on the channel. And I've really wanted to take a look at the Superman Heritage, because this watch, you know, it's really become a forum favorite, a forum darling by us watch enthusiasts, especially in the past year or so. So I've been very much looking forward to seeing this. And I've got to say, it is awesome in person. Let me put it on wrist. My wrists are 7.25 inches in circumference, and just take a look at those proportions. I would definitely go for the 39 over the slightly larger 41 millimeter size. I love that I don't have any lug overhang. I have a very comfortable, natural fit on wrist. There's something to be said about the traditional sport watch size and how universal it is for a wide range of wrists. This one definitely carries the comfort, and it carries the pop and the presence, the it factor, that special something that sets it above the rest of watches in class. I think this has it. So I was really genuinely curious if this thing is just overhyped because it's interesting and it's from France. But no, it's not overhyped. I think the details set this apart. The heritage design sets this apart. The execution for the price sets this apart. And I can see what the fuss is about. This thing is really impressive in person. Now let's talk dial details. We have an interesting blue sunburst dial. It's borderline lavender in certain lights. I like that slightly cool color hue. I think it's pretty unique in the watch market. And these blocky applied markers, they really grab a lot of light in natural light. There's a good amount of light play, and I find it really easy to read at a glance or in direct sunlight. I think the look kind of strengthens the vintage tie-in. The negative element is there's just a very thin strip of superluminova C5. So in low light, it's it's not that long lasting for the fact that there isn't a lot of real estate there for the superluminova. But that's not the case on the handset. We have a very legible handset here. And I like how large the lume pip is on the shovel style seconds hand. So that's pretty sharp. And the addition of the red accent I think is attractive. It's very reminiscent of Seiko divers from the late 1960s through the mid 1970s. That's pretty fun to see. The other dial details, we have a metal frame around the date at the 3 o'clock position. And notice the font of the printing, how small it is and how clean it is. Sometimes on a watch, there's just an excess of text. And I would say my Rolex Submariner kind of falls in that category. It's almost like looking at a paragraph of text on your watch, and you don't get that here on the Superman. Everything is very clean, very well laid out. It's present, it's legible, but it kind of disappears, and you can appreciate the color, the hues of the sun ray. You can look at the details of the block applied markers, and I think the overall look is legible and pleasant. Because really, if we're honest with ourselves, guys, watches, they're really men's jewelry. It's a way for us to accessorize to a small degree while still being manly, right? and having something that's functional, that can tell you the time, that is robust and can go down to great pressures, great depths. If we have a mind to do that, we can keep track of an elapsed timer here with the rotating bezel. So I think, for a piece of men's jewelry, this has a high degree of beauty and a very pleasing proportion that, just adds to that pop or that it factor. So in my opinion, this is not an overhyped watch, and I can get why watch enthusiasts have been drawn to this, why this has become a forum favorite a Forum darling. There is something special here. Now, is it perfect? No, and it's not. If I look at this, I think the clasp feels slightly out of place when you look at the rest of the watch. I mean, we have a great watch head, great dial details, light play. This taper to the bracelet, I really like. I like the H link, how it's brushed. The mid links are high polish. And your first link flares out and meets these narrow lugs. So there's just a good transition. There's pleasant form from the case to the bracelet, and then the clasp, I don't know, it kind of feels like an afterthought. It's not particularly nice. I mean, we have a milled center section. We have the signature here, but the sidewalls, you know, it's pressed metal. It kind of reminds me of Seiko. It's a friction fit with a flip lock. I like how narrow it is, but I think this could be better. It could be more in keeping with the rest of the watch. Now, we have 4 different micro adjustment holes on the side, and we do have a milled dive extension, so I don't want to be too harsh on the clasp because it is perfectly comfortable, perfectly functional, but I don't know, can you guys see this? It just feels a bit out of place when you look at the rest of the watch. I think the rest of the watch is so good that an average clasp, I don't know, feels a bit disappointing. Now let's take this off and take a look at the case back. We have a high polished screw down case back with a nice stamping here. Notice the text is done in French. This is a French watch. And if we turn the watch over and take a look at the dial again, below the 6 o'clock applique, you guys can see France there on the dial. And I think that's great. You know, this is not a watch from Switzerland, from Germany, from Japan, from really the usual suspects when it comes to great watches, original designs. This one comes from France. And I don't have any French heritage, at least in recent history personally. But if I did, I mean, I would appreciate this to an even higher degree than I already do, if that makes sense. So I like the fact that this is a little different, but it has really fun history, great design language, great detail work, but most importantly, you know, it's just got that it factor. It has the proportions, it has the light play, and it has the functionality too. So yeah, this is a great watch, and I'm excited to spend a week with it. You know, I can usually tell when I unbox a watch if I just really like it or if it's on another level, and I'm just tempted to not send it back. Now, I'm not saying steal it. I'm saying send the brand some money and keep the watch and wear it in rotation. I'm going to be making that decision over the next week. This is very, very compelling. And again, I can see the draw and the appeal from the watch community. Now, just in closing, let me unthread the crown. And as you unthread it, you'll notice this bezel locker here becomes loose. So you can rotate the bezel. The material is aluminum, but it's set under a sapphire crystal. So you get the scratch resistance, you get the light play, the gloss look, and the action. It's nice. There is a small amount of back play, and I think that's due to the fact that it's just a looser action. The indexing is pleasant, it's fully indexed, and I really do enjoy the coin edging here, and there is a lot of real estate for your fingers. So if you have larger fingers, or perhaps you're wearing a wetsuit, I think there's going to be no issues in operating the crown. And then when you want to lock it into position, you just rethread the crown. You screw it down so it's just firm against the case. You don't need to, overly make it tight. And then this locking feature will ensure that the bezel will not move. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know, if you're a fidget spinner, right, and you just like to turn the bezel, you're gonna have to unthread the crown every time you do that. But it's kind of interesting that the original Supermans, the heritage one, had this feature, and it's kind of fun to see it done and replicated in the modern era. So guys, let me throw this on wrist again. We'll talk about the movement and we'll wrap up the first impressions. Yema is utilizing a Sellita SW200-1, and it is multiple position regulated in the factory in France where it's assembled, so it will be accurate to within a 12-second window. So not the most accurate out of the factory, but not the worst either. I kind of think of Oris that comes with roughly a 25-second window for acceptable daily deviation on the same movement basically as Solita. So it's nice to see Yema paying some attention. I would say that I would like to see a COSC option from them. I would pay a premium to get a certified chronometer personally, but I understand a lot of that is personal preference. And one of the appeals of this watch is the price point. You know, right around $1,000, I think for the price point, this is certainly appropriate. Excels in certain areas with the finishing, the fit, the original design language, the dial details, that pop, presence, and it factor. And I think it falls slightly behind in other areas like the clasp and, you know, perhaps the luminescence, you know, with the smaller real estate for each hour marker. But overall, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. Now, this is the packaging. We have a leather warranty card, actually, which is pretty cool. Let me turn this over and show you that everything's written here on the back. It's fun to have a travel tote that you can actually, you know, take with you if you go on vacation. Maybe you take a weekend trip. You know, this is a functional thing that does more than sit in your closet, right? So guys, here's the watch. Let me know if there's something you want me to cover in the full in-depth review when we do that over the next week. I'll give you guys an update on, you know, do I really want to spend the money, spend my own money, and add it to the rotation, because I think it's worthy of consideration. And I'm higher on this, a lot higher on this than I anticipated. This thing really is special in the metal. And hopefully you guys can see that throughout the macro shots, the outside shots, and you know, the drop-ins and pictures. So thanks for watching today. I really appreciate it. Big thank you to Yema Watches in France for sending this in, letting me present what they bring to the market. I'm really appreciative. So a link to their website is in the description, and we'll see you guys in the next video.